Today I will be showing you how to search the library databases for evidence regarding reading and writing disorders. I will be working from the research guide, which you most likely are currently on, but if you haven't visited the research guide yet and you came directly to this tutorial, here is the URL for the research guide. So take yourself there, get settled in. I will be using the example of searching for interventions for dyslexia, but you could search for any reading or writing disorder, and you could search for things like diagnosis or evaluation, whatever it is that you are searching for. Just remember to pick the right search terms, and the guide talks a little bit about that on the Searching for Evidence tab. But I'm just going to jump right in with this example of interventions for dyslexia. So where are we going to search? I'm going to start off with the MGH OneSearch, which searches all of our databases at the same time and is good for a quick search. But then we will also, on the Searching for Evidence tab, cover the sort of major databases where you're most likely to find information. And that would be the ASHA Journals website, PubMed at MGH, Cinahl, the Cochrane database of systematic reviews, and ARIC for the education literature. So, as I mentioned, MGH OneSearch searches all of our databases at the same time. It can be really convenient if you just want to get some quick articles, but it also can be overwhelming because it's searching everything at the same time. It's like searching Google. You're going to get way more results than you need. So remember in MGH OneSearch that everything is relevancy ranked, and the articles that are most relevant to your topic will appear at the top of the results. So let's go ahead and put in our search terms, which are dyslexia and intervention. And notice I have keywords selected and not title or author, but you can use this search to also search by the title of an article or for a specific author. I'm just going to hit the search button here, and this will open up a new window. If you haven't yet logged into the proxy server, it will ask you to do that. And here we are at our results. So we got just over 1,000 results. That's way too many for one person to go through, and unfortunately OneSearch doesn't have really great filters to use over on the left, but we'll make use of the ones that it has. So I'm going to change my publication date to the last 10 years. I've typed in 2006. I'll hit enter. That got rid of numerous articles. I can also go down to resource type and choose academic journals if I want to stay away from things like newspapers or books. I can choose specific journals if it seems like a lot of what I'm looking for is showing up in a specific journal. I can do that. There is also a subject selection here, so I can choose any of these to help narrow it down. But for the most part, I'm probably just going to look at the first couple of pages of these results and see which ones are about what I'm looking for. Now, normally you might have a more specific intervention that would help narrow down the results as well, but I'm trying to keep it general so that we have a lot to play with. So let me click on this first one. Reading and Language Intervention for Children at Risk of Dyslexia, a randomized controlled trial. Well, that sounds pretty good. If I click over here on PDF full text, I'll be able to read the article. I also like this feature on OneSearch that isn't on the other in the other databases except for maybe PubMed, and it's called Find Similar Results. This can be really useful if you've really only found one or two articles that are about what you're looking for, and you're not really getting anything else. Go ahead and click Find Similar Results, and that usually has good results. It will help you. It'll pick articles that are exactly like the article that you're currently looking at. A couple of other things about the OneSearch interface. If you need to send this article to someone, you can click permalink, copy and paste this link, and it will take someone within partners to the same exact place. You can also export it to, if you're using RefWorks or a different reference manager, you can export the citation. If you're not using any reference manager, you can click the Cite button, and it will give an example of an APA reference, but sometimes these are off a little bit, so just always double check with the APA manual and make sure that they're correct. Well, that's the basics of MGH OneSearch. Like I said, it's really just for very quick searching, nothing too in-depth. And now we're going to switch over to a singular database so that you can see the other features that are in those databases that are not in OneSearch. So we're going to close this out. I'm going to switch over to the Searching for Evidence tab. Let's start off with ASHA Journals because that is where a lot of the literature on any CSD topic is located, and you're probably familiar with it at least a little bit already. You can just go to search.asha.org, or you can click on the link. And then there's actually an advanced search. So if I'm going to click this search button here, and then I'm actually going to come over to this link that says advanced search, so I can use some of these special features. So you can choose which parts of the site that you actually want to search. So I don't really want to search newsletters because I don't think that's really going to have journal articles in it. Let's see. Probably not blog posts or YouTube or any of these things. So I'm going to uncheck the things that probably aren't really what I'm looking for. Great. And then these are the useful search boxes. So I know I want dyslexia and intervention. I could search and I could type in an exact phrase if I wanted. So if I wanted phonemic awareness to show up exactly as a phrase, I would put it in here. I could exclude words. So if I'm searching for dyslexia, but for some reason I'm getting a lot of articles on, I don't know, something that's not related to dyslexia, I could put that word in here and it would exclude articles with that word. I can also choose a date range again, so I can say between, if I want only the last 10 years, I can say between 2006, 2016. And then I usually don't get too much into these, but this should be enough to get us started. Yeah, so click back into the word box and hit enter and you'll actually get results. We've got 408, which is not too bad. If I click journal articles over here, sometimes presentations are helpful, but if you don't want to look at those, you just want journal articles, make sure you check off the journal articles box. You can even narrow it down by ASHA section. I'm not super familiar with what each of these are, but if one of these applies to the topic that you are searching, definitely do that. And then you can even choose specific years when things were published. So those may be useful to you. Let's see, do any of these look good? Dyslexia, intervention, reduced speaking rate as an early predictor of reading disability. So it definitely is highlighting the word dyslexia. I'm not seeing, oh, here's one that has highlighted the word dyslexia and intervention. Assessment paradigm for SLPs working with children with reading disabilities. So this one's actually about assessment. Not surprising because I'm sure that assessment shows up as a word in articles about intervention all the time, but not quite what I was looking for. So searching the ASHA website means that you'll definitely be getting CSD articles or articles related to something having to do with your program, but it unfortunately doesn't help you be super specific unless you're using very specific keywords. So, but yeah, just so you can see what it looks like. If I did want to read this article, I would click on the title and it would take me right to the PDF if it's available, or it might ask you to log in if you need to do that. So that is how to search the ASHA site. Let's also go into PubMed now. All right, so with PubMed and Cinahl and later Eric, we're going to be using subject headings to search for our topic. Subject headings are great because they have a couple of extra features that can help you be more specific than just using keywords. So there's more about subject headings on the research guide on that searching for evidence page. There's this box about subject headings. We have a whole video about them. If you're unfamiliar with them, go ahead and look at this and then come back to this video because I'm just going to jump right in with searching subject headings. So I'm going to change this drop-down menu from PubMed to MESH because MESH stands for medical subject headings. I'm going to be actually searching for subject headings. If you haven't used PubMed recently or MESH recently, you're going to have to scroll down in the all list, but it will eventually show up in your recent list. So I've chosen that, and I'm just going, when you're searching for subject headings, you search just one of your keywords at a time. So I'm going to start with dyslexia. And I see that there are a couple of different subject headings showing up. I'm going to choose this very general dyslexia at the very top. Gives me a definition. It shows me other terms that this subject heading is used for. So it's being used for developmental dyslexia, as well as dyslexia, developmental disabilities, developmental reading. So it's covering for all these types of things. And it's classified under language disorders as well as learning disorders. I can also see that dyslexia acquired and alexia pure are classified under dyslexia in all of the places that it shows up. So One thing to know about PubMed is that it will automatically include the first layer of subject headings under our chosen subject heading in the search. So when I search using the dyslexia subject heading, it's going to include the dyslexia acquired subject heading unless I tell it not to. So I'm going to do that now by choosing do not include mesh terms found below this term in the mesh hierarchy. I'm going to check that off, and now it won't include dyslexia acquired. Now, if you wanted dyslexia acquired, you could just leave it alone and you'd be all set. If you wanted alexia pure, though, you would have to then go to the alexia subject heading and add that one separately. Now, one other thing is subheadings. These are why I really wanted to use the dyslexia subject heading, because we can use these subheadings to narrow down our journal articles about interventions. How do we do that? Well, we look for the subheadings that kind of relate to that. They may not be the exact same word. There's no word intervention in here, but there's a couple of these subheadings that kind of match that idea. So, therapy is usually a good one. In this case, we're not going to use diet or drug therapy, but there is just a therapy subheading over here. Let me see if there's any other ones. Usually prevention and control is a good one, also for interventions, rehabilitation, and those all look good. If you were doing diagnosis, you would choose the diagnosis one. So definitely a bunch of options for whatever your search is. So I'm going to hit add to search builder, and this all this text in here is just the database's way of translating our chosen subject heading and subheading. So now I will pick search PubMed, and I can see that I have just over 1,000 articles. Again, I only want the last 10 years, so I'm going to click the publication dates filter over here. That narrowed it down quite a bit. These articles in brackets are actually not in English, so if I want to hit an English filter, so I would only get articles in English, I would hit show additional filters over here on the left, choose languages, hit English, and you can see that those articles with the brackets are now gone. I also can see how many of these we actually have in full text. We have 288, which is almost all of them, not quite, but it's most of them. I also can choose specific types of study design. They have clinical trial and review are already here, but if I click customize, I can add more types of articles to help narrow it down. Just check them off. So let's say I only wanted randomized controlled trials. Check that off. I've added it to the list, and now if I actually click on it, it will show me that there are 52 randomized controlled trials about the rehabilitation, therapy, or prevention and control of dyslexia. So let's look at some of these. The role of phonological awareness in treatments of dyslexic primary school children. That looks good. Reading and language intervention for children at risk of dyslexia. That looks great. So this seems like this was a pretty good route to take to get to these articles that we wanted. Now let's say for a second that our question was a little more specific. I'm not looking at just any intervention. I definitely want to look at interventions in children. So I could try a couple of different things. I could add an age filter. So if I again go to show additional filters, click ages, and I choose child, birth to 18 years. That got rid of about 2 of them, so it looks like most of these are about children. Or I could do my search a little bit differently. So that's one option. But I also could, let's redo our mesh search to show you how to do that. So I'm going to go back in and type dyslexia again. I'm going to check off our chosen filters, which were prevention and control, rehabilitation, and therapy, and do not include, and add this to my search builder. But I still, let's say I want interventions that are happening in schools, so I would type schools up here in mesh now. And a bunch of different types of schools. So we will click the general schools. And this one is definitely covering primary and secondary school, so that's the one that we want. But remember, again, I don't want any of these, so I'll have to click Do Not Include. And notice that my dyslexia subject heading is still over here, and I want to add the school subject heading now. So I leave and because I want the articles that are about these dyslexia interventions in schools, so interventions happening in schools. So I click Add to Search Builder, and now it has my dyslexia subject heading as well as the schools subject heading. And you could keep doing that with as many subject headings as you need to. You could just keep adding them to this box. And then again, at the end, you just hit Search PubMed. So, and this happened to keep all my filters. So it looks like there are 3 articles that are randomized controlled trials published within the last 10 years in English. I'm actually going to clear the age filter. See if that helps. Yep. Because I put school, so the age part's pretty much implied. I don't also need the age filter. But as I was saying, randomized controlled trials published within the last 10 years in English. And it looks like 2 of them we have. The third one I'd probably have to request. And just to head back to the guide for a second, as you know, you can always request articles through the library by filling out the request form here. And it is free for you, so make sure that you use your school email. So if let's say I wanted this article, I would click on the title. This is one of the ones we don't have, so actually let me choose one of the other ones. Let's see. There you go. I would click on this icon to get to the full text. And then PubMed also has a similar articles feature that I again have found to be very handy, and that's always located over here on the right. But here's your abstract. The citation information is right up here, so everything you could need is available there. And that is a couple different ways to search PubMed for articles on intervention of dyslexia. So let's close this out and head into Cinahl. Cinahl is next because we're also going to use subject headings. In Cinahl, they call them subject terms, and it's a little bit easier because Cinahl will actually suggest the subject terms to you instead of you having to search a dictionary. So let's go ahead and type in dyslexia again. And as you can see, Cinahl has a few more specific types of dyslexia than PubMed had. So the subject headings are not the same between the databases. They're similar, but not exactly the same. Let's say I wanted to see, again, that hierarchy of terms that shows where dyslexia falls in relation to other terms. I could click directly onto this word dyslexia in the list. And I can see that it's, again, falling under language disorders and that there's 4 more specific types of dyslexia underneath it. So if I want to choose dyslexia, I can click the box next to it. If I wanted all of these more specific types of dyslexia, I could choose explode, and that would include all of them. So that's the opposite of PubMed. PubMed, you had to tell it not to include these. In Cinahl, we have to tell it to include these. Or if I didn't want all 4, let's say I only wanted phonological dyslexia acquired, I would check off just the one. To make it a little easier on ourselves, we're going to choose just the general dyslexia because, again, we're going to use subheadings. So these subheadings are also very similar to the PubMed subheadings. So let's choose the ones, again, that match the idea of intervention. We have prevention and control, rehabilitation, and therapy. And now I just hit search database, and Cinahl is going to give me articles about the prevention and control, rehabilitation, and therapy of dyslexia. There's 227 articles. Again, I only want articles from the last 10 years, so I've changed the date. And you'll notice that this interface looks very similar to OneSearch, but it's not exactly the same. And now I've gone from 227 to 181. And anywhere where it says PDF full text or get it from MGH Treadwell, MGH full text, we have those articles. Something like number 3, we would not have. It also there are more filters located under this Show More button, and these can be really handy. For this assignment, I really like the research article filter. This will get rid of the sort of newsletter or newspaper articles that aren't research articles. We also like the peer-reviewed filter. That helps make sure you have a higher quality of evidence. And you can also choose languages. Again, very similar filters to PubMed, but these ones, peer-reviewed and research article, are unique to this database. So I've chosen those. I'm going to hit search again. And now I have 96 articles that are research articles about interventions of dyslexia. So let's say I wanted articles that were about interventions for dyslexia in children who speak more than one language. So I'm adding a second subject heading here. I'll type in multilingualism up here as my search term because I happen to know that that's a subject heading. I'm choosing the multilingualism subject heading just as I did before, hitting search database. And now I'm going to take these results from my multilingualism search and combine them with the results from my dyslexia intervention search. I've checked off both of these sets of articles. I'm going to hit the search with and button, and now I have articles that are about both of these two concepts. And it turns out that there are two of them, and these two articles were in this set of 96 as well as this set of 986, and there are the only two articles that are about both of these subject headings. And here they are. So that is how you can search with more than one subject heading. Also, you can do this with as many subject headings as you want, or if you want to just search keywords, all you have to do is uncheck this box here, and you can type in your keywords here. And you will also get some results, but notice that I actually got fewer results typing in dyslexia and intervention than I did with our subject heading search, and that can be because just one word won't return as many results as a subject heading, but on the other hand, it could be more specific than what I was getting before. So it always kind of just depends on your topic. You may not always have a subject heading for your topic, but both searching with subject headings and searching with keywords are available to you. So try them out. That was Cinahl. Next is Cochrane Database of Systematic Reviews. This one's very easy to search because there is actually not a whole lot of articles in here because there are so few systematic reviews have been made. And searching in Cochrane is simply keywords. There are no subject headings in Cochrane. So I'm going to go ahead and type in dyslexia, hit search. There are 8 systematic reviews about dyslexia, so I may not need to add an extra search term here. Let's see. Phonics training for English-speaking poor readers. Music education for improving reading skills in children and adolescents with dyslexia. So that's an interesting one that I might want to look at. But that's about it. So Cochrane, searching in Cochrane can be kind of frustrating because you can't get too specific. If you get too specific, you won't get any articles. If you keep it too general, you'll get too many. But in this case, it seems like there was just so few systematic reviews about dyslexia that this is what came up. So from this point, if I wanted to read the article, I would just hit EBM full text right here, and it will show up in a new page. And I can go through and read all about the systematic review. So that one was really quick. We have just one more to look at, and that's ERIC. This is searching the education literature. It's a federal database just like PubMed. And you can see it has a very similar interface to Cinahl. However, it will not suggest subject headings to us. We have to go and find them like in PubMed. So to do that, I'm going to click on the source right up here at the top. Search dyslexia. Here's my word dyslexia. If I click on the word, I can see that it's classified under a broader term of language impairments. There are some related terms here as well, but I want to add it to my search. So I'm going to check it off and hit the add button. Let's say I also wanted therapy. And they do have a term for therapy. There's all types of therapy underneath it. Some related terms, intervention. Maybe I do want to go with intervention. This one's a little bit broader. I'll actually use both of them. So I'm going to check off therapy and intervention. I'm going to say or because I could have either of these topics. Hit add here. And now you can see I have the search dyslexia and intervention or therapy. So it's going to give me articles that have dyslexia as a subject heading for sure, and then at least one of these two subject headings. It doesn't have to have both. And hit search. And we got quite a few. So 151 came up. Reading and language intervention for children at risk of dyslexia. Oh, this is one we saw in PubMed. Yeah, so a lot of these look really interesting. Again, I could get more specific if I needed to. If I wanted specifically music therapy, like we saw before, I'm going to actually just use the keyword music as opposed to looking for a subject heading. So if I take the word music, or our results from the word music, and combine them with our results from our dyslexia search with and, one came up. So there's something, this looks like it's actually a book, and music therapy in relation to learning disabilities came up. So it's not an article, but we did get one result, and you could decide if you wanted to look at that or not. Heading back to these 151 results, I've hit the view results button there. If I wanted only the articles again from the last 10 years, just like in Cinahl, I can change that. And again, there are more filters under the show more option here. Not as many as Cinahl, and definitely not the same ones, but there's the peer-reviewed one, which is handy. And I've got about 68. So I do recommend definitely searching ERIC because there's a lot in here about reading and writing disorders. And now that you've seen how to search in the databases with this interface, you can see it's not too hard. And again, you can use subject headings or keywords in this database. All right, well, that is all of the major databases, and I don't want to make this video any longer than it needs to be. So that's just a quick intro into how to search these databases. If you need help, don't hesitate to contact me. Here is my contact info. You can email me. You can go to our Ask a Librarian email. You can stop by my office on the 4th floor up in the library in B38. I'm happy to sit down with your specific question and show you how you would search the databases for specifically what it is that you are looking for. So come find me if you need help. And thank you.